tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following dates with tears. But he said what matters most of all was that little dash in between those years. For that dash represents all time that she spent alive on earth. And now, those who love her, or only those who love her, know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the car, the house, the cash. What matters is how much we lived in love and how we spent our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd still like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. If we could only slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remember that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they said about how you spent your dash? And like I said, I wished I would have met Renata a lot sooner in life, because I think we could have a lot of fun, because she was a special woman. I came to the hospital, I work at the hospital as a maintenance mechanic, and I happened to run into Tammy, and she told me the story of what was going on in her life at that moment. So I went downstairs and I bought the door. Like this little teddy bear. She didn't want to take it from me, she didn't. But then after me going over there, visit her almost on a daily basis. Our hearts become entwined. Every time I get there, I give her a hug. Every time I got there, I'd give her a hug. And she'd throw her arm around me. She really couldn't speak. She just moaned. She hugged me and just moaned. And that put me in a really special place. I will miss her. And I'll never forget that one lady could make me feel that way in that amount of time. I wished I got to see her, I wished I got to meet her a long time beforehand. But just like that says, that poem says, what would you like people to say how you spent your dash? Anybody else get up and share what they want?
Richard's going to tell a story of her life from her own words. These are her words that were written.
Each Libiditch, Oma, each Libiditch. That means I love you in German. I love you, Grandma, in German. I'll try to get through this the best that I can. Here is Oma's life story. Renata Elizabeth Boyd was born in a loving, caring Catholic family, May 21st, 1927. Her parents were Helena, I think. Helena, sorry, and Ernst Boyd. Renata had grown up with her father being a butcher and a shop owner, and mother being a housewife, and who had also worked in a factory. When Oma was about 6 years old, she had went to a Catholic school where they were really strict. This was the time that Hitler was in control. Oma's family had made a root cellar that no one was supposed to find out, and they had put supplies and everything in there. She had went to school. Oma went to school. When she came home, there was no home one day as the home was burnt from being bombed and being hit. Oma's mom was in the hospital. According to the neighbors, Oma was told by her father that she needs to go back to school where she can sleep and eat there. Oma's grandpa had told him that he had a place to live, and Oma and her parents had moved to her grandpa Boy's place. They were able to eat and sleep. Ernst, Oma's dad, had gotten a job as a police officer, and Oma came out of school and started an embroidery job. Oma was happy with her parents, and her parents were very happy. Then one day there was a knock on the door. One day there was a knock on the door, and I can't pronounce her name. Helena had opened the door. There were two SS men in uniform and asked for Oma. Helena, I can't say it right, that said that Oma was not there, but she was there. She came out of her room and saw the soldier standing there. They had asked her if her name was Renata, and she said yes. They had demanded that she goes with them. They demanded she goes with them, but Oma refused. At this time, her mother had told the soldiers that Renata works and that they had taken Oma and told her she will work for Adolf Hitler. They had taken her to a house where there were 10 to 16 girls and some boys. Oma got really sick, and the girls had told her she will get used to it. They told her not to complain about the accommodations or anything, as they would hurt her, and as long as she did say anything, she would be okay, they told her. The camp that Oma had went to was called the Young Camp. She had a job embroidering uniforms for the generals, sometimes till midnight or possibly later. She was also told not to ask what will happen to her because the soldiers will put her in a place with no heat, no water. The only thing that was given to them was black bread, rice, and water, and usually cold tea. This went on for a long time. After about 2 years, a soldier had came into the camp and told Renata that her dad is waiting for her and her mom is sick. Oma was taken home and saw her mom wasn't really sick, as they told a little white lie to get Oma out of the camp. At this time, her mom had gotten up and told her and her dad had told her that, and about 5 other girls that were there, they need to get their stuff and that they have to go. Ernst had given Oma and the girls a compass to be able to find their way. They were dropped off into a field where they were to try to make it to the USA barracks. And on their way, as they were making their way to the barracks, they had found an abandoned tank, which they had cleaned it out and made a place to sleep for the night. They could hear bombs and airplanes overhead. The next morning they woke up and they were kind of curious if they could get the tanker started. And according to the grandma's story, according to her life, that they were able to get the tanker started, and they were able to get going. And then they were halted by a soldier that told them to halt, and they had told the soldier what was happening. Oma was safe in the arms of American troops. Oma and the other girls had been taken to the U.S. headquarters in Kassel, where they were given clean clothes and fitting clothes and food. And this is, oh my God, the table is set for a queen, she said.
She thought when she was coming to America, she'd be ringing a bell and she'd have people at her beck and call. She'd love to tell that story to us all the time. I thought I was coming here to ring a bell, not do work myself.
Oh my God, the table is set for a queen. She said, well, she was a queen. Oma worked cleaning the barracks for the American soldiers, and she even got paid doing so. They asked what had happened, and the girls had said that Renata had suffered the worst. She had went to see a doctor with all the stuff that has happened, and they said that she was fine. Everything worked out, except for she had to eat more because she was skinny. At this time, Renata was introduced to Sergeant Michael Morrell in 1945.
That's why we're all here.
Pretty much. And they had great times together. And at this time, the war was coming to a close, and of course, the Americans won. She had fallen in love with Sergeant Michael Morrell, and at one point, Renata got sick and had to be checked out by the doctor. And when she went to the doctor, found out that she was going to have a baby. And Renata had no idea what was happening. It was explained to her.
If you've all been at dinner at my house, you know the story.
That is all I'm saying. At this time, Renata and Michael had known each other a couple years. In 1947, Renata's first baby was born, Doris Elizabeth Boyd. Michael had asked Obama's parents for her hand in marriage. Her mom had said no, and Mama had called her mother an old bleep. I have to keep it clean. There's kids in the room. But in what Oma wrote herself, it actually says the word. So
Richard, say it in German.
I have no idea what it is in German. If I knew, I probably would. And Renata said that she was going to marry him anyways, and if she wants to. Way to go, Grandma. The request for getting married was sent, and 2 weeks later, the papers came back on May 19th, 1940. Yeah. Can I say that right?
1948.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On May 19, 1948. Okay. Typo, sorry. Renata and Michael were married in Germany.
You tried to make my mother legitimate. She wasn't.
You're right. I think that was a typo. Wow.
My sister was a kick in the bucket.
She's going to come and kick you in the bucket if you don't get
Love you, Doris.
Renata and Michael were married in Germany. Soon after they were married, they headed to the USA.
Where she wanted to ring a bell.
What?
Where she wanted to ring a bell.
Oh. I gotta make this easy on myself, sorry. Oma had gotten sick on the boat, from boat sickness, whatever, and the nurses had to take care of her baby girl Doris until Oma was feeling better, until they landed, or until they got in America. They had stopped in New York on the way to Kansas City, where they stopped and lived there for around 4 months with Michael Morrell's sister until Grandpa's military discharge papers had come in the mail. After they came, they took a train to Lodgegrass, Montana, and they were there for a long time. While in Lodgegrass, Renata had a son, Peter Morrell, and another daughter, Maria Helen. Michael had gotten a job with the electric company, which they had told Renata and Michael they wanted them to move to Hardin, Montana, so it doesn't waste so much gas traveling back and forth. In October, after moving to Hardin, Renata had another son, Daniel Richard. Renata had gotten a job as a nursing assistant, but before she could do the job, she would have to learn good enough English. Renata had worked with a retired teacher 4 times a week. She had moved to Great Falls at this time, moved to Great Falls with Grandpa and her kids, and had gotten a job at the Deaconess and as a nursing assistant for around 6 years. Later, she went on to work somewhere else. I don't remember where. I forgot to put that in there. Oops. At this time, Grandpa was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and Renata was diagnosed with arthritis, which made it hard for her to walk. she had to use a cane or walker. Renata was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1991, which she survived. She had gotten bladder cancer, which she survived that. After all this, Renata was at Park Place Nursing Home being with Grandpa until he died in 1995. At this time, she had moved to Conrad and lived in the Horizon Lodge in 1998 and helped the people living there. While at the Horizon Lodge, Oma had met a great man, James Ragsdale, who would become the love of her life and her husband. She was married to this great man on May 19, 1990. I was only 3 nights. What was the year?
88 or 98.
98. Oops, another typo. Renata had a wonderful life with Jim. They had gone places she had never been before. Jim got Alzheimer's and they had lived out in Conrad for 2 years until Jim had been put into Missouri River Manor Nursing Home. Renata went with him and lived there, taking care of him until he had passed away. After Jim passed away, Renata had moved to Polson with her daughter Maria then for a little while and then had come back to Great Falls to live with her other daughter, Doris, and granddaughter Tammy. Renata was very, very well taken care of and enjoyed living there. She was there through her stroke in September of 2016 till she had passed away, April 1st. And that's my grandma's story.
Joshua was going to come tell you her joke. This was found in her paperwork. She had this joke.
Always looked for me to make her smile. I was strange. After talking, if I was in the room, she would be laughing. Or if I wasn't laughing, she was doing anything she could to make me laugh. In her slideshow, I put the country song in the middle of it because all my love to dance and it was one last joke for her. Like Mom said, this joke was found in her papers. I read it the first time today, and it gave me a smile. So, it is a preacher's joke. This preacher walked all over the United States to try and save souls. So he sees a man in the distance walking half drunk. He stops and asks if the man was baptized. The man replies, "No, sir." 5 feet from them was the river. So the preacher takes the man by the collar and dunks his head in the river for 1 second. He pulls him up and asks if he saw Jesus. The man replies, "No, sir." So the preacher dunks his head in the water again for 2 seconds this time. He pulls him up and asks if he saw Jesus this time. He again replies, "No, sir." So the preacher dunks his head for the 3rd time for 5 seconds this time. When he pulls the man up, he asks once again, "Did you see Jesus?" The man says, "No, sir. Are you sure this is where he fell in?" And silly jokes like this are what made every day seeing Oma a wonderful thing. If there was any slight bit of music anywhere near her, she'd get up and start dancing. She was the light of any day. I could light up any room that she was in. And she always had, if anyone was down, she always had the soul and smile to make them happy. And it was her life goal to make everyone around her smile.
Yep. Agree.
So,
Yawn.
after I got the nickname Clowny, I was in the store one day and saw a big clown nose. And the first thing I did was think of Oma, and I bought it. I walked into her room that day with it on, and she looked at me, shook her head, and said, "Oh, you really are a Clowny now." And just to see if I can make her smile, I decided to try and see if I can make the clown nose noise, and I learned that I can. So, every time I saw Oma, even after her stroke, I made that noise, and if she could, it put a smile on her face.
Even at prom.
That's everything I have.
Alright. Thanks. So, whoever didn't get Oma here earlier, shame on you. Oma and I like to drink. What kind of beer do you like? We like dark beer. For show. Alright, so I'm Allie. I am Tammy's daughter, and I am Renata's first and favorite. What we've always said about Oma, and my sister said it the most, is that she would outlive us all. She was 89 years old prior to her stroke, running around, shaking those little hips. And she was going to be at all our graduations, all our weddings, and she was going to outlive all the generations. But here we are, because she's not physically present with us. Some of y'all are here because you knew my great-grandmother personally. Some of you probably took care of her in like a medical environment. Some of you might have just been following her story since her stroke last fall. Or maybe like myself, you're biologically related to Renata. But what we all have in common, and what she certainly would have agreed on, is that we're all family, whether or not. So the family I come from has this kind of weird thing. They like to take in people that they're not really related to. But Renata certainly started that trend. So thank you all for coming today. I know that she would not have had it any other way. When I was younger, Renata used to babysit me. Okay, and I was probably 3 or 4 at the time. I was really little, I don't know. When Oma babysat me. Oh, very, very, very young. Really? But I actually vividly remember this, and you know why? She enjoyed scaring the hell out of me. She would do this thing where she'd just look at me like in silence, and all of a sudden pop her dentures out of her teeth. Yeah, and when you're like 4 or whatever, if someone's teeth come flying out of their face, you're a little freaked out. I have those at home still, just so y'all know I can't get rid of them.
Gross. Gross. So anyways, I remember this traumatic act of child abuse as if it were yesterday. You better believe when I have grandchildren, I'll be doing the same thing. Crazy great-grandma Renata. That's what she was called, great-grandma Renata, or great-grandma Nada, as my sister says. That was until one day when I was at her house eating some orange sherbet. Most of my early memories of her look like this. She's giving me something sweet. Her bird Freddie is chirping relentlessly in the background. And the entire scene smells like mothballs. Like, I will not smell that smell without thinking of her immediately. Alright, but anyway, so I was sitting at the table eating some more sherbet, and I asked her how you said grandma in German. Oma, she said, in her thick, iconic German accent. So Oma is what I called her and what a lot of us call her, and what she's pretty much known by in our family. To pretty much everybody,
including her future adopted grandchildren. Oma was my first best friend. She taught me how to laugh at everything. I'd like to think that I get my sense of humor from her, and I know for a fact that I have gotten a sailor mouth from her for sure. But I'm quite proud to be her granddaughter. She was incredibly beautiful and a total badass. Sorry, that happens a couple more times. Sorry. My first job after high school was working as a nursing assistant at Missouri River Manor. And by some act of God, they put me on the 200 wing. This was the toughest wing at Missouri River Manor at the time. We had a lot of heavy people and a lot of Alzheimer's patients, but you know what? God put me there because that's where my Oma lived. This meant I got to spend every work day with her, and you'd always know when Allie got to work because Renata would come out in the hallway and say, "Good morning, sweethearts," and she'd give me a big huge hug and a kiss on my cheek. She'd always make these weird concoctions when I would have lunch with her, like ramen and hot dogs mixed in, or like something she saved from her breakfast tray, or maybe something she won at bingo the day before, but she always had me in mind. We would spend my lunch break watching Turner Classic Movies together. I love those old movies, and I will still watch TCM or some old Western with that good-looking John Wayne with her in mind. She was always so accepting of me. When my 18-year-old, crazy in love, fresh out of high school self, told my parents that I would be getting married to my high school sweetheart, everyone had the same reaction. They'd all have this blank stare on their face, and they'd all be like, "Oh," as everyone was worried for me, thinking I was making a mistake. Who wouldn't be, right? I know, Jenny. You know who wouldn't be? Oma. When I told her, she was so excited. Hugged me, congratulated me, and it was a breath of fresh air. My Oma loved my husband from the get-go. And you know what? My husband's not here today. He's back home in Texas, but he'd tell you that he loved her too. She knew what a good man I had well before my family did. And honestly, well before I did. This one time, her husband Jimmy and her were visiting my mom, and somehow Jimmy ended up on the floor. Oh yeah, and so they called me. Y'all met Jimmy, right? They thought that I somehow, because I was a CNA, possessed some sort of superhuman skills and could get him up off the floor.
And she did.
No. Justin came to help out, and I don't know how, but after much deliberation, we came and got him up without a scratch on him. And from that day forward, Oma would sing Justin's praises every time he was brought up in a conversation. She loved him, and I loved him.
And we all love.
If you spent any alone time with my Oma, she would tell you her story. If you're quietly giggling to yourself, or smiling with pride, or blushing a little, y'all know what story I'm talking about. It's the same one Richard just told you, plus a few details that are not safe. When I came home last year, my sister, my cousin Cassie, and we got to go through her photo albums, and we got to hear her tell us that story one last time. She would tell you that story with no shame and no filter. From her growing up in Germany, to working in a Nazi youth camp, or her brave voyage across the Atlantic Ocean to America, to the conception and birth of my grandma, Doris. Sorry, Grandma. I know that almost fourth generation, my generation, knows that story by heart. I will tell my son Braden that story. There he is. Hi, Braden. I'll tell Braden that story until he knows it by heart, and I know Cassidy will tell Sage that story until he knows it by heart. And we'll all tell you that story and many more stories of her, so that we can share with the world what an incredible and courageous woman our Oma was, and just how goddamn proud we are to be a part of that lineage. We'll all share all these stories with you, and you know what? We weren't wrong. Oma will outlive us all, because these stories will transcend beyond my life, my son's generation, and the future generations to come. She truly will outlive us all, just as we always said she would. Thanks.
At this time, anyone who wants to speak and tell a story about Grandma can. And we can also start eating.
I'll try it.
Okay, good.
Petition ready? No.
Well, let's see if I can get through this. I can remember when my mom was little. When I was little. My mom would be at home, and my dad would say, well, Renata, I'm going to the bar. And my mom would always say, well, you be back for dinner. And she said, you better make sure you're back for dinner. Well, she had dinner ready. Well, guess what? My dad never showed up. So my mom grabbed all four of us, put her next to her, hand by hand, walked us down the street, and she checked every bar in Hardin, Montana. She'd go to one bar, he wasn't in there. She'd go to the next one, he wasn't in there. The last bar she went into, there was my dad. She stood at the door, she looked in the door, my dad looked up, she goes, Shorty? And my dad would look up, he wouldn't say nothing. And she says, Shorty? And then my dad would say something. And she goes, it's time to come home to go to dinner. And my dad says, no, I'm not going home. I'm sitting here with my friends having a good time. My mom would stay at the door for a few minutes and she says, Shorty, I said it's time to come home for dinner. Well, my dad wouldn't listen. So my mom would look at us kids and tell us we gotta stay by the door. My mom would go into the bar. She would go to my dad and she said, Shorty, it's time to come home for dinner. And my dad says, no, it's not time to come home for dinner. So my mom says, Shorty, I'm telling you this for the last time. It's time to come home for dinner. Well, my dad wouldn't get up. So my mom, she was a loving lady. She grabbed him by the ear and she said, Shorty, it's time